Today, I'm going to start with a poem by Yogananda, and some of you have probably heard it before. Let's all bleed into our theme. So this poem is called God, God, God. From the depths of slumber, as I ascend the spiral stairway of wakefulness, I whisper, God, God, God. Thou art the food, and when I break my fast of nightly separation from Thee, I taste Thee and mentally say, God, God, God. No matter where I go, the spotlight of my mind ever keeps turning on Thee. And in the battle din of activity, my silent war cry is ever, God, God, God. When boisterous storms of trials shriek and worries howl at me, I drown their noises, loudly chanting, God, God, God. When my mind weaves dreams with threads of memories, then on that magic cloth I do emboss, God, God, God. Every night, in time of deepest sleep, my peace dreams and calls, joy, 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 and my joy comes singing evermore, God, God, God. In waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul constantly hums, unheard by any, God, God, God. Okay. I chose this poem to start with because I think a lot of people come to the spiritual path because they're trying to change or improve themselves, because they have suffering or anxiety or whatever it might be in their life. And they're looking for something to make that better. And they've looked in money and in relationships and in work and in toys, everywhere. And they haven't found it. And there's only one thing that can give a person experience of peace and quiet and a sense of connection to the wholeness of life. And it is that connection and that knowing of God within and without around us. So there are two quotes. One is from the Bible, and one that I've read before from Yogananda. One from the Bible is from Deuteronomy 6:5. It reads, "And you love God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might." And Yogananda had said, "Be so intoxicated for your love of God that you know nothing else." Now, one of the key things I want to focus on is this sense of loving God with all your might. Most of us love God passively, or we go through the motions and we chant our meditation mantras, or we practice our pranayama, and we think to ourselves, well, this is going to do it. And then we get up and we feel pretty much the same as when we started, a lot of the time. We might feel a little calmer. That's only because we've relaxed. And if we pay attention to our meditation practice, whenever distractions arise that pull us away from peace and contentment, what we need to do is engage our feeling response, engage our will, so that we are more fully giving our awareness to God, to this infinite consciousness, despite any distractions that arise. And sometimes that takes an act of will. We actually have to force ourselves to do this, to move into this state. And it's just like anything else in life. This doesn't mean that you are being aggressive. It just means that, for example, if you need to get in better shape, you might have to really talk yourself into getting up in the morning and going to the gym. You don't like it because it's not very fun at first, but then you make yourself do it. And then what happens is, as you get in the rhythm, you just get up at 6 a.m. and you go to the gym 3 times a week. You don't think about it anymore. And then you're in shape and it's fine. It's the same thing with meditation practice, or this idea of loving God. At first, you have to really give your awareness to it, direct your attention to it, but then the more you do it, it becomes your natural state. You just do it automatically. You just flow your attention to it automatically. Okay. And one of the things that I wanted to mention in regards to this idea of loving God with all your heart and being so intoxicated for your love of God that you know nothing else, think about what do you love in life? The things that you love in life, you spend time with. If there's a book that you love, you read it a lot. If there's an activity that you enjoy, you make time to do it. No matter what it is, if you love something, you give your attention to it. And also, you try to find out more about it. You're interested in it, right? So for example, if you want to know what God is, you don't just sit there and try to calm your mind down. You try to figure out, well, what is God? What does it mean to me? What is my relationship to it? And so when you're meditating, you practice your pranayama, you practice your mantra until you're calm, and then you ask, what is it like to experience God right now? And really wonder about that. What is it like to know myself beyond this personality and beyond this name and this form, so that I can be in this state of self-realization and knowledge? And you do that every day until you figure it out. I mean, that's why we go to school too, right? You don't just go to school once and then you know everything. You go, you contemplate the math equations that you need to know, or how to create a useful paragraph or sentence, and you keep working on it until you get it right. And with your spiritual practice, you know you're getting it right when most of the time you feel okay inside. You feel that you are supported by life. You feel that no matter what's going on out here, no matter how perfect or imperfect things are fine, right? That's the way it works. And then, once things are fine, you can go deeper into the process. And eventually, you can help other people experience that state as well. And you don't have to do that by being a teacher. You can if you want. You can do that simply by being a nice person. Or when you're around someone, by being calm and collected inside. People notice these things. Might not notice it outwardly. They might not know exactly what's going on. But just like you're affected when you're around negative people, people would be affected by you when they're around you as a positive person, right? Okay. Now, the other thing we need to consider in regards to what we love is you have to pay attention to what you think about and what you do. What you do habitually, what you think about a lot. The states that you feel, believe it or not, you feel those and you think about those things because you love them. Even if they're not useful to you. You think, well, this is unconscious, of course. I'm used to feeling this way, it makes me comfortable, so I'm going to continue thinking about this person which kind of gets on my nerves and how they did this to me. I'm going to continue thinking about how I should have done this in life, 5 years ago, or how I screwed up in this way. You keep thinking about these certain things. In a sense, you are saying, I really love this, right? So as a yogi and as a spiritual person, one of the things that's indicated for you to do is to let go of things that you love that drain your energy or don't empower you. If they drain your energy and they don't empower you, they are taking your time away from that which can empower you, such as contemplation of God. Because you've all tried to meditate, right? And you've all been distracted by things that don't really matter too much in the overall scheme of things. But for some reason you don't stop thinking about them. You keep doing it. You keep reflecting over and over in your mind. So again, pay attention and then give yourself permission to try to simply focus on God and this divine infinite consciousness. And what you're going to find is the more that you do that, the less experiences come into your life which create turmoil or which create problems for you. Or maybe what happens is you come to a point where you realize you don't want to put up with that anymore. And so now you have the courage and the energy to say, you know what, I'm kind of tired of dealing with this, so I'm done. And then you move on and you redirect your energy to something that's positive, again, such as your meditation practice, being healthy, whatever it might be. It's learning about taking your energy and directing it in such a way so that you are living as wholesomely and as usefully as possible. And that bothers a lot of people, because then that brings up all kinds of rules and injunctions about you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Well, the reason we have these injunctions is so that we save our energy, so that we can give it to God, so that we can give it to this infinite consciousness, so we can know what's going on, instead of letting it trickle out in little leaks and cracks that we have within our consciousness, whatever it might be. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, another aspect to loving God and filling your life with God is if you pay attention to what is your house like? What are the things that you hang on your wall? What is the music that you listen to? What are the TV shows that you watch? For example, last night we had a devotional chanting session here. Why do we have devotional songs? because it saturates your consciousness with this this clarity and this urge to experience peace, right? At home, above the fireplace, I have statues of like Ganesh and various Hindu gods that I like. I have like devotional items that make me feel inspired, that make me want to sit down and meditate. By my desk, where I do my work, on the wall there, I have pictures of the gurus. So every time I'm sitting there, I look over, I'm inspired by what would I know their life to be like. And so that uplifts my thoughts just a little bit as well. Okay. Whatever you see, hear, touch, taste, whatever your senses take in, that creates your consciousness, your awareness. Just like the foods that you eat creates your body. If you drink Doritos and Coke, and hot dogs, and candy all the time, what kind of body are you going to have? Probably not a really healthy one, and probably not a very happy one, because that is what's creating this physical structure. What you put in creates this physical structure. Whatever your mind is like, whatever your emotions are like, they are created primarily by the things that you choose to feed your consciousness. All right? Now, we have to remember that we've grown up in a society that wants to do what it wants to do when it wants to do it, right? And when you are growing up in that kind of society, you might think, well, it's okay if I do these certain things. It's okay if I do this other thing that's not really useful for you because, you know what, I'm an American. And I have my rights, and I should be able to do whatever I want. And that's true, you can do whatever you want, because we are in America, and there's lots of things that we can get away with here. But really what you need to ask yourself is, are the things that I'm putting in my consciousness, are they directing me in the way that I want to go? Do I really want to know God? Do I really want to know inner peace? And you can tell by the things that you fill your consciousness with. All right. And it's kind of interesting because throughout a lot of spiritual traditions, spiritual teachers, the Gita, the Yoga Sutras, one of the main things that they talk about is the quickest way to experience peace and contentment and self-realization is by surrender to God. Almost all of them say that's the case. Surrender to God, loving everyone as yourself, all these sorts of things, loving yourself. And so we have this right there in front of us. And most of us don't do it. So we're suffering. We don't know what God is. We're unhappy. We come to meditation centers. We go to churches. We go to seminars. We hear people tell us these things. And yet we don't do it. So then you ask yourself, well, am I really looking for God? Am I really interested? Or what am I doing? Why do I go to these things if I'm not going to use what I get here? I mean, what's the point? So consider to yourself that it's really simple. You meditate every day. You do your best to know what this reality is, this infinite consciousness is, and what your relationship is to it. Because at first it starts out like an impersonal, there's God out here and I'm here and I need to figure out the difference. But what you find is that the more that you contemplate this, what is God, what is this divine, you eventually start to realize that you are an expression of the divine, and you have to accept it. Right? You have to accept it. And then once you accept it, then you have to start living in that way. And that's the problem. That's why we don't accept it, because we don't want to live as though we are God, because then that means that we have to act in certain ways that we don't necessarily think are useful. So consider that if you give your awareness to God, if you surrender, and earlier this morning we contemplated a line from the Bhagavad Gita that said, that devotee whose endeavors are devoid of willful desire, whose karma is consumed in the fire of knowledge, is referred to by the wise as a sage. So the first part of that is the devotee whose endeavors are devoid of willful desire. That's where the surrender part comes in. Willful desire is I want to do it when I want to do it now. Being devoid of willful desire is more, okay, I'm turning in and I'm asking, what is appropriate right now? What should I do? And then you wait, surrender to the process, and an inspiration arises. Okay, I do this thing. And then you just go do it. So this whole willful desire is letting go of what you think you want to do and being more open to this inspiration of grace to flow through you and following that. That's what we mean by letting go of willful desire. The next aspect is karma. The karma is consumed in the fire of knowledge. Well, if you know what you are and you know what God is, then your karma is consumed in the fire of knowledge. In the Yoga Sutras it says that Ishvara, or God, he surpasses karma. And also around that sutra it says that by perfect alignment with Ishvara, or God, you experience surpassing of your karma, letting go of your karma. So you see, it goes together. You know what God is, you know what you are in relationship to God. I might have got those a little off, but you get the point. You know what your relationship is to God, and then you surrender. That's the knowledge. And now you have burnt up your karma in this fire of knowledge, and what's left is to simply act in that inspiration that arises. And there are 7 billion people on the planet. We can't all be presidents, or gurus, or rock stars, or whatever it might be. Some of us have to do just normal things. And that's okay, because God does normal things too. All right, so remember that. Surrendering comes into being aware of whatever needs to flow through you, you do your part, and that helps you to wake up. Now, some things I want to go over about meditation. We talked about not being passive in your meditation. So the first thing to do when you meditate is you have a chosen ideal of what God is like. You think God is a certain thing or works in a certain way. For me, God is infinite consciousness. I like to think of this spaciousness, or I like to imagine a radiant white light in my inner eye, my third eye, when I'm meditating. So what I do is I have the sense that I'm giving my full attention to this, and I really mean it. I really feel it as though I'm flowing my awareness into it. So whatever your chosen identification of God is, pick it, give your full attention to it, absorb yourself in it. Okay? And then, after a while, when you think you've given just all you can give a little bit more, because you can probably give a little bit more. And then once you reach that point, relax, turn your attention fully within, and simply wait and watch in that stillness and in that silence. And see how God reveals itself to you, how this infinite consciousness reveals itself to you, and how that peace descends as you wait and watch. Because you have to remember, there are 2 sides to a conversation. It's not just talking, it's also listening. So you have to flow your awareness, give your full attention, and then relax, wait, and be receptive for this to come forth within you, this understanding to come forth within you. And in time, you start to have flashes of insight to where you know what you are, and then you're no longer disturbed by the things of the world. Because the things of the world are always going to change. Anything that you can see, anything that you can experience, it's going to come in, it's going to go away. Work, relationships, health, friends, toys again, whatever it might be. Everything has a life, and it comes and it goes. But there is something which is behind all that, which is the source of that life. And when you can experience the source of that life, then you are no longer bothered by the rising and falling. Then you see life as the show, the play of what it is, of sorrow, of happiness, of frustration, of fulfillment, of success, of failure, whatever it might be. And it doesn't bother you anymore, and you're at peace. And when you're at peace, you let go, and you know that you are this infinite consciousness. And you know that you are one with God. And you're not concerned about endings or beginnings anymore, or making things, or taking things, or creating things, or whatever it might be. You are just being there, appropriate to the moment, and being so fully surrendered in the process that you don't have to worry about it. And then you become a blessing to everyone around you. Okay. So, last thought. Keep your awareness on that which you love most dearly, that never wastes your love or diminishes it, but only amplifies it. Focus on that which has no possibility of leaving or ending, and which has been waiting for you since the beginning, and is there beyond all ending. That is what we're looking for. That is what we're aiming for. And it's there. We just have to say, okay, let's know what it is. Let me know it. Let me feel it. Let me experience it directly. Let me repeat that one more time before we chant and meditate together. Keep your awareness on that which you love most dearly, that which never wastes your love or diminishes it, but only amplifies it, that which has no possibility of leaving and which has been waiting for you since the beginning, and is there beyond all ending. All right, so we're going to have about 5 minutes of chanting, and then we'll meditate together.